Hello, kindred resistors against the dysgenesis of modernity. This is Govan here with GovanKilgour.com. In the ongoing topic of logical fallacies and using good, reasonable thinking skills and critical thinking skills, I wanted to cover something that I believe is a new fallacy that's not yet defined, but I see it quite frequently used, and it might actually be quite similar to some other fallacies that exist out there. If you check out the links below, I've got the fallacy chart I often reference for people to look at to get a more in-depth understanding of the topic and grow your own ability to recognize aberrant thinking when it comes to how one and how others analyze topics to determine what weight there is behind an argument, whether it's your own or dealing with something that you disagree with and you want to, kind of debate someone. So the three fallacies this is going to be similar to is the straw man fallacy. It's a little bit similar to that. It's a little bit similar to fortune telling, and it's a little bit similar to the loaded question. But it's not strictly defined as any one of these, and so I think it deserves its own title. I'm going to call this not an appeal to. I often say, I talked about one, the appeal to privilege. I actually talked about that one on Secrets of Longevity a while back, that we need to sort of start talking about this as a new fallacy, its own unique one. And it's going to be similar to other ones too, but we get into defining these labels to put them out there almost like memes to seed out there to counteract the dildocracy that's building among the adherents to cat lady syndrome and the growth of the cat lady state. So let's look at what this one is. I think it should be referred to as the label Pseudo-Psychobabble. So it's any attempt someone makes in responding to you, or you might fall prey to using this type of a fallacy yourself. But when you try to analyze someone's intentions behind something, when you have no idea what they are and you're ascribing some sort of mental processes that we commonly understand as being irrational. So there's several examples I'm going to go over, but first let's just think about why this is wrong. So you really have no idea what someone's intention is when they state something or when they have a position on something. In virtually every case, unless they've specifically said why they're making this claim, there's almost always a variety of potential things that could be behind what it is they're saying. So to use a prominent example in my mind from my past, there was a post I made on Facebook several months back, and I think I referred to this in a previous video actually, but it was prominent in my mind because it was actually a close friend that got really heated in what he had to say in response to me. And because they were someone from my past, it stood out more than just the average person commenting on Facebook. You would think that someone that you've grown up with and that has that past history would have at least the decency to treat another person with respect and not immediately categorize them of using the most grotesque, intolerant, basically bigoted mentality in their approach to a topic. So what I had done is I had posted something, and it was an article about how academic university professors are saying that intelligent people are more likely to be cuckolds. And I was talking about how this is some sort of a morally superior stance and fetish to have. And I was just totally flabbergasted by this. But the thumbnail was three people. This is what triggered my old friend. A white man, a woman, and a black man. And the woman was turning away from the white guy to the black guy, kind of implying that she was interested in the black guy more than the supposed husband or partner that she had who was white. So I actually go out of my way to not post stuff like that when I see that as being the most prominent thing, because I know people will jump to conclusions about what it is I'm saying and not actually take the words that are being said. But yeah, that one slipped past my radar, and of course around a dozen comments later my friend was chiming in. They made a couple points, but then they concluded with, all I see here is fear of big dicks or something. So in my response to him, I was going over the various points he had made. Some were somewhat well thought out, some were not at all. And then that last one, I was just like, what is that even about? I thought he was talking about other people that had commented earlier, but there wasn't anything that I could see that was actually referencing that. And so I just kind of ignored that. And then later on, he repeated it as we were getting into this pretty heated debate, with him increasing the volume and intensity of his emotional reasoning. And yeah, he kept coming back to this thing. And then I actually realized, okay, this is something about the article. I scrolled back up, looked at the article, and all of a sudden it hit me, yeah, this thumbnail kind of indicates cuckoldry about race. However, in the article itself, it didn't even talk about race. That was just the choice of the thumbnail that was made. So I pointed that out, that, you know, that wasn't even in the article and that wasn't in anything I had to say, so you're being ridiculous, and you got all huffy. So that is the idea that Pseudo-Psychobabble, the attempt that you're trying to understand someone's reasoning for doing something, and you apply the worst conclusion possible in terms of someone's moral outlook. In this case, this is actually underlying racism combined with a feeling of inadequacy about one's personal sexual prowess or lack thereof. So you can see how that's a distraction and an attempt to dismiss someone's stance, when the entire time the stance was evidence-based reasoning on what my stance was actually people that do this are going to, if they have a family, it's going to be damaging to their family unit. You know, you can't have a stable family, you can't have kids that are growing up happy and healthy if the energy is being directed outwards away from raising your kids and being devoted to your partner. So I'm sure there's actually a lot of other less extreme examples. I know one that I've seen, perhaps even myself has used. It's, say, the typical debate between someone who's criticizing feminism versus someone who's in support of feminism. And at some point, if things get too emotional, someone against feminism might blurt out something like, well, you just have daddy issues. So this is pseudo-psychobabble. You don't know what they have. Now, there might be a theory that you could put forward that is the reasoning behind someone taking that stance, but, you know, why even bring that up? It can be your own theory that you talk about separately, but you wouldn't want to bring that into an argument, because arguments need to stay on topic and on point and to actually address the core issues. You don't want to get into anything that deals with people's character, whether it's their character flaws of any type or a lack of authority or what have you. So let's go for one more example that I had in mind. This was on a video, again, on Secrets of Longevity that I posted a while back, and at some point in the video I was criticizing the porn industry and how it was a majority Jewish controlled, and I was criticizing cultural Marxism and that connection to the Jewish culture. And, you know, these are legitimate criticisms. I actually had evidence and examples I was giving, yet someone that was responding to that was simply saying, oh, you're just jealous of Jewish success. It's like, no, this is actually about something that's damaging to society, and I'm criticizing those who are behind it and who have outwardly said we're doing this because we want to degrade European peoples. So it really blows my mind that someone can just completely gloss over all the relevant things you're putting forward, and they go to this pseudo-psychobabble to attempt to not actually address what it is you're saying. And they're presenting that as their reason for dismissing you because, you know, you're just too stupid, you're too ignorant, you're too bigoted to get over this internal emotional stuff you have going on. But they've just projected that onto you. And in fact, in many cases, I think this might be some level of projection that people do. Perhaps internally, these people feel these things, but they don't criticize them or they don't accept facts around these things because it would validate their internal feelings about that thing. And since they don't want to address that within themselves, they then project it on other people. I wouldn't use that as an argument in the heat of a moment. I'm just saying that could be a theory as to why people might use pseudo-psychobabble. So these are definitely some things I think we need to kind of meditate on and put through the tumbler of our analytical processes. And really, you know, once we examine them in this sort of external context of understanding critical thinking, then we're quicker to pick up on it when other people are using it, because, you know, you nip that at the bud. You don't let that turn into something bigger that they then keep emphasizing. And you don't get offended by it, because then they're going to say, oh, well, that must be true if you're so triggered by it or whatever. No, you have to present it as, you know, you're not actually referencing at anything I've said. You're just making this blatant claim, which is pseudo-psychobabble. Just use that word, pseudo-psychobabble. It's a bit of alliteration with two PS words there, so it, you know, stands out, and I think it's a fitting label for this type of fallacy. So let me know what you think about this in the comments below. Like, favorite, and share the video if you feel so inclined. And with that, take care. May you spread logic and alt-right virtues among the dildotariat.